Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Tuesday live session with Sirus Migration and Education. My name is Ashani Yapa. I'm a registered migration agent here from Sirus Migration. We are coming live to you from beautiful Brisbane. I've got Mr. Terry Malone with me today from Holmes Institute. So it's going to be all about homes today. So in this live session, what we are going to discuss is with COVID-19 and with everything that's what's going on, it's very important for international students who are currently in Australia and also people who are offshore, who's planning to come to Australia for their higher education. It's very important for them to figure out which college they want to come to, which state and which course, and what is their budget, how much they want to spend, especially in these times. So we have invited Mr. Terry Malone from Holmes Institute. He's the campus director, and also he's the head of the business development and helping Holmes with their marketing. So we're going to ask him all sorts of questions about the courses available for people who are in Australia and also in offshore.
Right.
So welcome, Terry.
Thank you. It's lovely to be here at one of your live sessions.
You're welcome. So tell us about Holmes, a little bit about the background, the history, to start with.
Certainly.
Maybe?
Well, the Holmes Education Group is a multi-sector education provider across 6 countries. Our largest activity is here in Australia, where we have the Holmes Institute.
Right.
Holmes Institute has been operating for 57 years in Australia.
Wow.
And we offer undergraduate and postgraduate degrees and diplomas across 5 campuses in Australia.
Right, so you have 5 campuses in Australia.
Yes, so
Okay.
our head office, the head office of the group is in Melbourne. Our largest campus is in Sydney. We also have a beautiful campus in the Gold Coast, right in Cavill Avenue there. And here in Brisbane, we have a very big campus in the city centre. And we also have a campus in Cairns up north.
Right. Can you also tell me about your international presence? You mentioned that you have campuses in other countries as well.
Certainly.
Oh.
So we have embedded colleges with universities in the United Kingdom. We have a joint venture with higher education programs in Hong Kong and China. And we also have English language schools in Ireland, Canada, the US, the UK, as well as Australia. And we have diploma programs in Canada as well. And next will be higher education programs in Ireland, in Dublin.
Oh,
so
wow.
we're
exciting projects and a huge network.
We're always moving forward and looking for other opportunities. Of course, with COVID this year, everything slowed down a little bit, but we're certainly moving ahead here in Australia and taking good care of our students here.
That's really good to hear. So tell us about your most famous courses that you have for maybe people onshore first.
Sure, okay.
Yeah.
It is quite similar actually, onshore and offshore. So our most popular courses would be our master's level programs,
Right.
Particularly our MPA, our Master of Professional Accounting, with our MBA. So it's a dual degree, which is registered as a 2-year program. That would be our most popular program for students who are looking for accounting, students who are excited about getting 2 degrees at the end of their 2-year study, and it also puts them in a position to apply for post-study work after they finish their studies here in Australia.
Right, because it is set up for 2 years to meet the
Exactly.
requirement.
Yeah.
All right.
So we do have we have an MBA, which is 1.5 years. We have a Master of Professional Accounting, which is 1.5 years. But then together they make a 2-year dual master degree,
Right.
at the end of which the students get both qualifications, which is great.
Sure. So which campuses do you have this course available?
That's available in Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane and Gold Coast. So
okay.
we have higher education. We don't have higher education in Cairns.
Mm-hmm.
In Cairns we have diplomas and English language,
Right.
but we have higher education in Melbourne, Sydney, Gold Coast and Brisbane.
Right.
And another program that is popular is our 2-year MBA professional.
Uh-huh.
So for those students who perhaps aren't interested in accounting,
Yeah.
there's an MBA there for them, which is a 2-year program. And also we have a Master of Information Systems.
Oh, that would be quite famous with how Australia's moving as well. Yeah.
Well, it's a new program for us, and so far there's a lot of excitement about the program. It has been launched in Melbourne. As I said, Melbourne's our head office, and we develop our programs at head office. So we normally launch them there, where we can monitor their progress initially, and then we move our programs north. So the Master of Information Systems will be moving to Sydney and to the Gold Coast in 2021.
Okay, and that's also a 2-year master's where at the end they'll be eligible for subclass 485 visa?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
So I'm very interested about the MBA program. Could you please tell me the eligibility academically? Do they need to have an accounting background for that?
No, they don't need to have an accounting background, so
Right.
it's assumed that they don't actually.
Okay.
And the basics of accounting are taught at the very beginning. So it's a 3-year program. They obviously need to have an undergraduate degree, and they need to have their Ielts, which would be 6.5, nothing less than 6.0.
Okay. Is there an alternative English language requirement that they can meet for this course, or they must have?
No, certainly. If the students don't have their Ielts and they're onshore,
Right.
they can visit one of our campuses, and we will do our own English placement test for the students.
That would be really good news for students, because most of our students have been struggling to book tests because of COVID and what's going on. So if they can enter your courses without doing a proper IELTS or PTE or any such test, but a test that is provided by the campus where they can go and sit an internal test, that would be fantastic.
Well, there's other, I mean, if the students are coming from another provider and we can see that they've been successful at the previous provider at that same level, then they don't require the English placement test. But if they're unable to show that, then we can do an English placement test at the campus.
Excellent. So, if you talk about other courses, for example, Master of Information Systems, which again I think will be quite a good course for international students who are looking into studying in IT and STEM, because that's where the skill migration is currently headed. So what is the entry requirement for that?
For that, they, once again, they'll need an undergraduate degree with some IT experience, preferably, and they would need a 6.5 IELTS, no less than 6.0.
Right, and so for that, do you mean they don't need to have an IT background or IT bachelor's?
Yeah, they need to have a bachelor's in the IT field.
In the IT fields, one of the IT fields. Okay,
exactly.
That's great. And again, the English requirement, can it be replaced with the internal test?
Yes, the same as with the MPA and the MBA. The only one that's a bit different is the MIS is 6.5 and the MPA is 6.5. We have 2 MBAs, so we have the 1.5-year standard MBA and then we have the 2-year MBA professional. There's a slight difference there. Both of them require 6.0. With the shorter MBA, it's 6.0, nothing less than 5.5. But with the MBA professional, it has to be 6 across the board.
Right, okay.
A lot to remember.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And you do have a great website that has all the information
absolutely.
in there
And
as
obviously
well for us.
Students can contact you as well and get further information on the finer details.
Sure. So what other courses do you have for international students?
So we have at the bachelor's degree, there's a Bachelor of Business, there's a Bachelor of Professional Accounting, and there's a Bachelor of Information Systems. All of those require the equivalent of Year 12 and a 6.0 IELTS with nothing less than 5.5.
Right.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Just with the English with those, we don't do English placement tests for those. It's very important for us that our undergraduate applicants are strong applicants and that they can demonstrate that they will be able to be successful. So we do need the IELTS unless the student is coming from another provider where they can show that they have been successful. They're the only two options there.
So you do have the option, let's say they come to a different provider to study a different course, and then they completed a year or so of studies, because we do get a lot of inquiry about this sort of, and then they want to change their course and move into some, let's say they were studying accounting, now they want to move to IT. So if they do have a background or year 12 to get into IT, so they can do that in your college?
That's correct, yes.
Right. Plus, they may not need to sit for IELTS or PTE if they have successfully completed that 1 year.
That's correct.
All right. So that would also be really good. So yes, what other courses, Terry? If you
so the at the undergraduate level, the Bachelor of Business, Bachelor of Information Systems, and the Bachelor of Professional Accounting. We also have a Bachelor of Fashion and Business. So that is one 3-year bachelor's degree where students study both the creative side of fashion, the manufacturing, design, so the creative side of fashion, but they also learn the business side of fashion. So we put that course together because we've had a fashion program for a long time, but we saw more and more that fashion is becoming a big business, and even someone who's completely creative and just wants to design, they have to be able to sell themselves and to promote their line. So we put the two together into a bachelor's degree where they cover both sides of fashion.
Okay. So vet sector, what courses do you offer?
Yep, the vet up in Cairns, we have a Diploma of Leadership and Management, and that's also available in the Gold Coast and Sydney.
Gold Coast and Sydney. Yes.
And then we have Commercial Cookery and Hospitality in Gold Coast and Sydney as well.
Okay, so Commercial Cookery and Hospitality, how long is the program?
It's a 2-year program, so it's 1 year for this the certificate of Commercial Cookery, and then 1 year for the Diploma of Hospitality.
And can the students package that with a bachelor's degree if needs be?
Certainly not from offshore.
No. This is for onshore.
Not at the moment.
Not at the moment. Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. So what is the financial requirement for getting into these courses? Do you request to see their financials at the beginning, or
Yes, we do. We do insist on seeing all of the financials in the beginning, particularly for offshore students. For onshore students who are already here in Australia, we will accept a deposit of $1,000 for the students to apply for their COE. And then before they get started, one subject's fee. So we've actually relaxed a lot of that in this year because of COVID. We've tried to make things as flexible as possible for our students that we know have been suffering. Everyone has been having issues there. So some of the things that we've put in place are a lower deposit for them to get their COE, allowing students to commence their course even just with a payment of $1,000, and then we have a payment plan across the semester. We've always had payment plans actually, but we've made it more flexible, and we have taken away any financial penalty for late payment. So students aren't being disadvantaged if they can't pay. We've even been allowing students to, who haven't paid for trimester 1 to enrol into trimester 2 and then into trimester 3. So we've also introduced a 15% scholarship for all students, new and existing. So there's 15% off our fees, which are already very affordable compared to universities.
That's another thing I wanted to ask you, offering higher education for such prices.
I think that's one of our selling points is that we have fully accredited degrees, Australian degrees, fully recognised by the accounting bodies of Australia. And we are very student-focused in our campuses, even during COVID where we've been online. The campuses are open, the staff are all there, students can come in, students can call, students can email. So there's been a lot of services and support for the students, yet our fees are very affordable. Quite often, I'd say the students that we do have are students who are looking for a quality provider, looking for a provider with a long history in Australia and stability, but also they need some affordability.
Yeah.
And they're the sort of students that we have.
Excellent.
And so on top of that 15% that we've been giving to new and existing students, also for our own students, our current existing students, we have been giving them a $500 credit into the next semester, so that when they commence their next semester, there's $500 that comes off their total
I think
fees.
this will really help our international students, especially these times, because we do get a lot of inquiries from students where they're struggling to pay their fees, or they need some extension because their parents back home are struggling as well. So in such times, if you're offering scholarships and credits for these students and being flexible with them, with their payments, that would really mean a lot to them.
The flexibility is really important because everyone has a story, as you can imagine, and it's really hit the sector quite hard. So one thing we thought that we could do is provide a lot of flexibility. Also, we have the Holmes Foundation. I'm one of the chair people on the Holmes Foundation, and we've also been helping students out individually with different financial issues that they've had. So I think we've done really well this year with supporting our students as much as we can.
Okay, I'm also learning new things about Holmes today. So that's really good. So for offshore students, could you please tell me, because right now the Australian borders are closed and international students cannot enter Australia, even though you have a visa, and some countries you can lodge visas and some countries you cannot. Because if you have to give fingerprints, and most of the fingerprint offices are closed. For example, in Sri Lanka, it's still closed and we don't know when that will open. So do you have a solution for that sort of people who are stuck offshore?
Look, we can allow students to start studying online, but somewhere like Sri Lanka at the moment, where the biometrics isn't happening, it's probably best to wait for a little bit. If we look at India and Nepal, for example, India, they've been operating their visa offices for a while now. We've had a lot of students recently apply from India who have successfully got their visas, and they were to start in November, but of course the borders are still closed. So those students have either started studying online or they have deferred their start date until March, in the hope that our borders will be open again in March. If we look at Nepal, they had the same issue where Kathmandu is in lockdown and they couldn't do their biometrics and things like that. That's only just opened up now. And so now those applications are starting to come through. So I'm sure once Sri Lanka is in that same position, I'll be there with you to...
Sri Lanka has moved to level 1 now, so I'm very excited.
And as you know, I've got a long history of travelling to Sri Lanka back in the day, and it's one of my favourite places. One of my favourite places to visit. So I'm really looking forward to when we can start working offshore once the visa office opens, and then once the world goes back to normal, hopefully sooner rather than later. I'm looking forward to visiting.
We are all hoping. I'm sure our students are hoping the same.
And then I'll definitely be there, and we can do this in person, which would be wonderful. It's always great to meet the students.
So I've also had inquiries from students who are offshore asking, if they were to study online, what facilities, how can the college help them? What do you have in place for that?
Well, we already have some of our own students who were stuck offshore. They'd gone home in January or February and were unable to come back. So we've provided flexibility for them. We've either deferred their course or allowed them to study onshore. We've allowed them to study fewer units, and they have the same online delivery that we have for our current students who are onshore, plus everything is recorded so that they can go over that again and again, and then we email them directly, or we have Zoom meetings with them to help where is needed. So really it's not that different to our current students who are working with us online.
Okay. So How many sort of students do you have? Do you have students studying online right now on campus?
Yeah. So we have if we look at that group of students who were stuck overseas, that's more than 100 of our students, and they've been taking units online. And if we look at students who had enrolled for new students who had enrolled for November, but obviously were unable to come here, there's a handful have started studying online. I think a lot of students are still very confident that the world will go back to normal next year, and so they've got their visa, but they're going to wait until next year. I think it'll depend what happens in the new year. If things do go back to normal, fantastic, they'll be coming here. But if we see that for trimester 1, for example, that the borders aren't open, then I think a lot more of those students will get started with their study, knowing that in T2 they'll be able to come over and they've already got those units under their belt. It just reminds me, we should just quickly go over the intake dates.
Yes, please, that would be really good.
Trimester 1 is March, trimester 2 is July, and then we run a summer semester in November. Of course, the November intake is not a compulsory study period, but we do run that for students who want to fast track their program, or cross-institutional students, or even our own students who may have missed a unit who need to pick up a unit in the summer.
Okay. So from what I gathered from what you said, a lot of our students offshore especially, they're a bit concerned about start studying online because they have never done that in their life, and they've never seen Australia, they've never seen the college, so they're like, okay, I don't know if I'll be able to cope up with the work. So you are saying you are flexible with them, you do have Zoom meetings and help available.
Yeah, absolutely.
If they want to start that and go case by case.
Absolutely.
Do they still need to start with the full 3 subjects if they're starting the study?
No, there will be flexibility with that at the moment until we see until the borders open. So we're being as flexible as possible. We have a student engagement team, and that's their role, is to look after our students who are offshore and make sure that they have everything that is required. So I know it's a bit daunting for some students who have never been here to suddenly start studying online, but actually we've been very successful with our online delivery, and students have done very well with our online delivery. I think once again, because our campuses are fully staffed, so even if a student's having issues with their computer, they can bring their laptop in and we help them, or they can use the computers in the campus.
So most of these countries have pretty good internet connections, better than Australia.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I don't think internet connection is going to be the problem.
No,
and as I said, even WhatsApp, we're WhatsApping, we're Zooming. I think that's one of the, I suppose, good things to come out of COVID is that we've all learned to adapt and to communicate differently.
Yeah, so as Terry said, it's really good news. Even if you're offshore, you don't have to wait until the borders open. If you can lodge a visa, you can get your studies started, and they are there to help. They have a special team dedicated to help students who are studying on offshore. So you don't need to delay your plans.
And that study goes towards their
that's right, subclass 485 visa.
Exactly.
So if you're studying in a regional campus, for example, if you start your study in Gold Coast Holmes campus, then you should be able to get your 485 visa extended for another year, depending on the course that you studied. And even if you start your study, if you're offshore in a different country, you will be treated as you were in Australia studying and you were in a regional area studying as well. So you will be able to get all those benefits as if someone who are in Australia studying.
Yeah.
So that's, again, international students are not at the losing end of this.
I think the government's trying to do what they can do realistically. And so they've made a few good decisions like that.
That's
then now we just need the borders to open.
That's right. The most recent update is if someone is studying in health sector and if it's their last semester, now they are talking about letting these students in. So that could be a starting point to all the international students slowly returning. So what are the next start dates for offshore studies, Terry? If someone wants to start, what would be the next?
March. So
it will be next March.
the middle of March is our trimester 1 intake. So there's a bit of time now for students to get that organised.
Sure. And I think we've got a question.
Some questions?
Yes. The questions are not related to studies, though they're related to skilled migration.
That's your area.
Okay, we've got some other questions as well. Do you have any health-related courses, or are you planning to?
Not at the moment. I'm sorry. No, it's the information systems and business, accounting, and fashion.
Yeah, and hospitality for
for the
onshore
people at the diploma level.
Yeah. So I've got few skilled migration related questions. I'll just go through it now. How many times an applicant can apply employer-sponsored visa subclass 482 or 494, as my age is 48, as I'm not for PR? All right, so with subclass 494, there's again the age limit, which is 45. But for subclass 482, there is no age limit. You can, if your occupation is on the the short-term occupation list, then you can apply for the visa twice. You can apply once and then renew one more time. But if your occupation is on the medium to long-term list, there is no limitation. You can apply for 482 visas as many times as you like. So that's to answer your question. We do have some other questions, but they are skill migration related questions. So what we will do at the end of the session, I will reply to each and every one of your questions, because we don't want to divert too much from education and going to
well, the two links, it's very important.
That's right. So that brings me to the next section about skilled migration pathways available after the courses that you have in Holmes College. So most of their, all of their courses, at the end of the program, you, as an international student, you will be eligible for subclass 485 visa. A lot of people call it the TR or post-study work visa. And the bachelor's degrees and masters will allow you to get the subclass 485 visa for 2 years. But if you studied in a regional campus, then you may get this visa extended if you stay and live and work in this regional area. So, yeah.
And can I add that we're very lucky that our Gold Coast campus is considered a regional city. And for those who don't know the Gold Coast, have a quick Google. But the Gold Coast is a huge modern city on the beach in Australia. It's 1 hour's drive south of Brisbane. It's a wonderful place for students to study. The cost of transportation and housing is lower than that of Melbourne and Sydney, for example. It's a growing tourist area. Even in this current pandemic, it's still very busy because local Queenslanders who have been unable to travel abroad or travel interstate have been going local and having holidays in the Gold Coast. And so there's always lots of work opportunities there as well. And our campus there is right in the heart of Surfers Paradise. It's right next to the main tram station. And if I speak to our students there, a lot of them live within a 10-minute walk of the campus, which is a great thing for them. So cost of the things that are unavoidable, like transportation and accommodation, are lower. Transportation times are shorter, but the same great courses and the benefits of regional study, as was mentioned.
Yeah. And I've got a question from Ajay. What is the language requirement for information systems?
Yep, for undergraduate level, it's 6.0, no bands less than 5.5. And for postgraduate, it's 6.5, no bands less than 6.0. Thanks,
so that
Ajay.
Is if you're offshore, but if you're onshore, you may have the ability to get it waived if you're transferring from a different provider.
If they're transferring and they've been successful, then that's fine. If it's postgraduate, and they haven't been successful and they don't have their Ielts, it's case by case, but we do have placement tests on campus.
Sure. And I've got another question from Abdul Sami. Is IELTS still a requirement to get visa for online study as offshore?
Yes, if they're going to get an Australian visa, it's exactly the same process. It's just that they're not actually arriving in
right.
Australia. They'll be studying.
So to clear that question again, Abdul, so you're studying online doesn't mean you will finish your study online. What our plan is, what the campus is doing, what Holmes is doing is, yes, you can start your studies when you're offshore, but at the same time, you will go ahead and apply for a student visa and you will wait for the borders to open and come to Australia. So you still will have to go through all the requirements for your international student visa as well.
For the students we have in that situation at the moment, we have two lots. We've got our existing students who went home and got stuck there, and then we have brand new students who have applied for their visa, successfully got their visa, but then because the borders are closed, they've been unable to come to Australia, so they'll either defer their start date or they'll get started doing some of the units online so that when they eventually arrive in Australia, they've already got some of those units done and on their transcript.
Yeah. And I've got some specific questions from Sushant Kumar. I think, Sushant, I will get back to you after the session. He wants to know, he's studying Bachelor of IT, about to finish, and he wants to know the pathway that he has to follow in order to get permanent residency. So I will get in touch with you and give you specific advice. I would need to know a little bit more about your background, then I can plan the permanent residency pathway. Right, so I've got a really good question from Devin. I graduate Health and Science Certificate Bachelor Degree diplomas in Warren Stone University in Chicago, United States of America. Can I do MBA study?
Yes, Devin, you can. I mean, what you have studied is fine. Of course, you'd go through all the usual application assessment, but the background that you have studied would be perfectly fine then to move in to do an MBA.
Adding to that, I'm also very interested about the 2-year professionals MBA. Mm-hmm. What is the interview, what do you look at in a candidate when you select?
They need to have an undergraduate degree.
In any discipline?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
And then they also need to have the Ielts. But then they're able to do the 2-year MBA professional.
For any MBAs, can applicants join with their business or the work experience background, or must they have an undergraduate?
We can look at work experience if they can demonstrate 5 years of managerial experience.
Okay, because I have had inquiries from mature sort of age applicants where they have run businesses and worked for many years, but they don't actually have a bachelor's degree. Yep. So even if they're offshore, you're willing to have a look at their profile?
Not if they're offshore.
If they're offshore.
If onshore, we can look at that, but offshore...
They must have a bachelor's degree. Okay, great. Thank you. I've got a question from Ajay. Thanks. Can I transfer to Holmes after 2 semesters? I'm currently in Melbourne and completed 2nd semester in Master of Information Systems.
Yes, that's possible. So if the student has successfully completed 2 semesters and they're looking to move across, that is possible. They just need to apply and provide all of the documents. And
so we will get in touch with you, Ajay, and provide you more information about the specific application process. And he may even be able to not do an English test if he has passed his 2 semesters.
Correct, yes.
So it's a good example of what we discussed. So I think we have come to the end of our session. Anything else you want to add, Terry?
No, just that I look forward to welcoming new students. We're very friendly. We're very helpful. I'm based here in Brisbane. It'd be great to see students here in Brisbane or Gold Coast. And, of course, we've got big modern campuses in Melbourne and Sydney as well. Good luck with everything. I hope that everything works out with this pandemic and that the world can start moving around freely soon. But until then, if you have any questions, you've got a great person here to help with that. and I hope I get to visit you in Sri Lanka as well.
And other countries too.
Yes.
This is going
It's going worldwide.
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic.
All right. Thank you everyone for watching, and thank you so
Thank
much,
you
Terry,
very
for
much.
your time.
It's been a pleasure.
And as Terry mentioned, so there are great courses available with great payment options and scholarships for you during these times, and also a lot of help from the staff in the campus and a lot of flexibility around your studies and payments as well. So if you're interested in any of the courses that Holmes College has to offer, or any further information you want to know, please get in touch with us. We are more than happy to help you. We have a great team here who's always willing to help. Thank you so much, guys. We will see you next week.
Thank you.